welcome everybody. Today's session is where to publish for PGRs. My name is Kirsty McDermott. I'm a research support advisor from the library. I'm here today with my colleague Barbara Lancho Barantes, who is the head of the Raising Research Visibility Service, and she also is the head of the bibliometrics service as well. So the learning outcomes from today's session are to really understand the importance of finding and evaluating appropriate places to publish. You'll learn how to evaluate journals, books and monographs for their suitability for your research. And you'll learn about the importance of open access and how to ensure that your publication choices are compliant with your funder's open access policies. We'll explain what predatory publishers are and how you ensure that you select credible publication venues for your research, as well as general where to publish tips. So how do you find journals in which to publish? I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. So if you could tell me in the chat, that'd be really great. So how do you normally find journals in which to publish? So we'll just allow a couple of minutes for everybody to gather their thoughts about this and post in the chat. Okay, Scopus. So Sam's actually using a database to find publications. Great, that's brilliant. We're going to go into that a bit more about how to use databases and resources to find publications. I think a good way to find a journal to publish is by using the same journals that I'm reading from my research. Yeah, so you're having a look at the journals that you're familiar with. So a couple of you are looking at journals that you read already. Ask supervisors for recommendations. So Jane, I think that's a type of journal finder, Matt, isn't it? I'm not too familiar with it, but okay. Look for similar articles. So a lot of you are kind of working with the kind of evidence base that you've got already, and looking for places that you kind of perhaps have picked up through your research from reading already. Okay, well, thanks. That's really helpful. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Matt. You sent me the link. That's great. I'll check that out later on. So it links titles to other journals which have published similar articles. Okay, that's good. So you're kind of typing in your title and it's trying to harvest journals with similar kind of metadata. That's really interesting. I'll check that out later. Thank you very much. Okay, so a bit of variety there. So some of you are using tools, others are kind of relying on your own knowledge of what you've read before, and some of you are consulting supervisors as well for recommendations. So that's great. So when you are looking at places to publish, you can use all of these different methods to try and ascertain where best to publish. A lot of the time, your supervisor will have great recommendations, but it's also good as well to evaluate journals yourself, because your research might fit better in a different venue to what your supervisor suggests, or they might suggest something that's absolutely spot on, but you just need to have the independence to kind of evaluate and check that yourself. So we'll go later on, we'll show you how to evaluate journals using tools. Thank you very much for your comments. So things to think about when you're publishing are like, who is your intended audience? Sometimes maybe not an additional journal might be the best fit for your research. You might even want to, so many different publication outlets out there. It could even be a policy on a website, for example. And so what you really need to think about is what's the best way to reach who you're trying to reach. What are you trying to achieve? Do you aim to influence policy or reach specialists outside your discipline, or perhaps engage the public? if you are trying to engage the public, perhaps the traditional journal might not be the best venue for your research. Do you always publish in the same journal, or one which is consistent with your peers? So I think, as I said before, it's really invaluable having that advice from your peers. You need to know where your peers are publishing, and it's really invaluable to know that. But it's always good just to check that the research that you're doing now, is that still relevant in that journal, or is there a journal that's a better fit for me? It's always something that you're checking, depending on your publication, because of course each piece of research is different. So obviously open access is so beneficial to research, to get research widely accessible so that research can be built upon, but it also helps to increase your own research visibility as well. So choosing places to publish that are open access really helps to maximise the accessibility to your work. And major funders now require research outputs from funded research to be made open access. I know this can be quite tricky for early career researchers and PhD students, because perhaps the place you want to publish might charge an article processing charge, and there might not be fees for publishing open access. So it's so important to have available free places that are open access to publish. So there are some routes to free publishing in open access journals. You may have heard of green open access, and that's when you publish in a subscription journal, but you can make your author accepted manuscript, which is the final peer-reviewed version of your article, but it just doesn't have the publisher typesetting or branding on it. So you can make that author accepted manuscript available in a repository, and that's called green open access. So that's one option. You can also publish with a publisher that's under an agreement with the university. I'm just going to share my screen with you now. So if I just do that, just bear with me a second. So on our library website, we've got information of all the institutional agreements. So this is on our research support open access pages, and it's called Find Funding for Access. And here lists all the institutional agreements that we have so basically you can publish with these publishers for free. There's the Sage Open Access Agreement, the Springer Compact Agreement, the Wiley Open Access Agreement, and unfortunately for Wiley, we haven't reached our annual limit. No further articles, unfortunately, at the moment can be made open access through that agreement. So basically, it gets updated with the current status of the institutional agreement. So it's worth looking at if you're struggling to find a free place to publish, just to check to see whether you can publish for free with one of these agreements. And it will get updated as time goes on. So if there's any more institutional agreements, they will be added to this page. So I'm just going to go back into the slides now. Another good way of finding free places to publish, you can find free open access journals using the directory of open access journals. So this is a directory of open access journals all over the world, and you can find free open access journals using that resource. You can also, so if you are funded now or in the future, you can use a tool called Sherpa Fact just to check that your place of publication is compliant with your funder's open access policy. So I'll just show you that now. So Sherpa Fact is really helpful. So if you're funded in the future, so you have to comply to your funder's open access policy, you need to check that your journal of choice meets your funder's open access policy. So say I was funded by the Wellcome Trust, and let's say my journal of choice was AIMS bioengineering. I can just put in my funder, put in the journal, and then go to check compliance, and it immediately says that I cannot comply with my funder's open access policy if I publish in this journal. So then I know I need to find another suitable journal and then just check it using this tool just to check that I'm complying with my funder's open access policy. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board and find another journal. So my funder is still Wellcome Trust, but I'm going to try it and publish in Advances in Bioscience and Bioengineering. I'm going to check my funder's compliance there. So I can comply by publishing in this journal. I can self-archive to meet my funder's policy requirements. So it's a really helpful, fast tool just to check where your publishing is compliant with your funder's open access policy. I'm just going to go back into my slides again now. So finding appropriate places to publish. At the start of your research, you can run a literature search in the key databases just to get all the key evidence out there and see where it's being published. It's really good to check the aims and scope of the journal, the editorial criteria and processes, and the acceptance rate and the time from submission to publication. All these things really impact you and your work. So it's really good to sort of check the small print. And you might find it useful to list several journals to evaluate and narrow it down to maybe at least 3 to submit to should you need to look beyond your first choice. So another publication route you can consider is publishing preprints. So you can share preprints publicly on preprint servers like Archive, bioRxiv, chemarchive, social archive, earth archive. So you can check with your supervisor for your school's approach, because publishing preprints is quite prevalent in some schools and not so much in others. So it's really good to check your supervisor's approach. What's really useful about preprints is they can help researchers to receive immediate engagement and recognition for their work, so you don't have any delay in publishing. So you can get it immediately out there. And funders such as the Wellcome Trust allow researchers to cite their preprints in their grant applications. So they're really a publication in their own right. Funders are accepting them, such as Wellcome. And you can also publish it in a journal at a later date. So many journals allow former preprints to be published with any revisions at a later date. And you can check Sherpa Romeo for journal policies on preprint. So you can check your journals, see just to check that the journal that you're submitting to allows that. Okay, but it's becoming more and more common in research. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Barbara now, who's going to do the next part of the session.
Thank you very much, Kerstin, and hello, everybody. Now we are going to talk about journals and how evaluate journals using metrics. But first of all, I would like to ask you, how do you evaluate journals? In a couple of minutes, I would like to read your comments using the chat box. How do you evaluate journals? What is your criteria in order to decide which is the most suitable place to publish. I read before Scopus, and it's a good answer. So, which tools or which database do you use, or how do you evaluate journal in order to decide where to publish? Can everybody hear me properly? Yes. Okay. So please express yourself using the chat box. How do you evaluate journals? How Well, I'm going to explain different tools, but I would like to read your experience with the tools. And impact factor. Impact factor is a journal metric. Which is used for to journals index in Web of Science. Read some articles. Good, 80. Yes, because if you read some articles and you read the references used in these articles, can you give the ideas where to publish? Yes, where is open access? Yes, it's a criteria. Yes, if you would like to publish your paper in journals open access, you can use the directory of open access journal. With some reviews about the good publisher. Good. Example, Springer or Elsevier. Yes, I think all of you have a good knowledge how to evaluate journals. But in order to refresh and give you a reminder how do you evaluate journal, I'm going to introduce the wonderful world of metrics. So first of all, there are two main multidisciplinary databases. The first one is Scopus. Scopus has indexed 30,000 journals from all different areas. The way that Scopus classifies this journal is depend of the scope of the journal, classify the journal in different areas. So there are a number of 300 specific subject categories and 27 subject areas. So the main one are the 27 subject areas, such as arts and humanities, social sciences, medicine, neuroscience. So there are 27 main one, the broad subject areas. And these subject areas are classifying themselves into 300 specific subject categories, and the journal are classified into these areas. So you can, for example, search the journals in your field in medicine using Scopus. So another database is Web of Science. Web of Science has another, because both are different, both belong to different companies. Scopus belong to Elsevier and Web of Science belong to Clarivate. So they have different journal coverage. So Web of Science has less number of journals, but it's a multidisciplinary database and is very well known, and it's the same quality of Scopus. Both are very good. Web of Science has around 28 or 1,000 journals classified into categories, the same than the Scopus. And Saimago Journal and Country Rank is a web page in open access. You can search online. Saimago Journal and Country Rank use the journals belong to Scopus. The same journal than Scopus are used in Saimago Journal and Country Rank. So Scopus, Web of Science, we need a license. So the university annually pay the license of both. But Saimago is open, so it's free online. So without, understanding some journal metrics, without entry in a lot of details, because I know that this is very hard and this is a very, the world of metrics is very complex. So, but I would like to explain the metrics briefly in order that you understand and you get used to them, in order that you can understand which metric means to decide when you are exploring Web of Science or when you are exploring Scopus, in order that you can decide using journal metrics. Okay, CITE score is the main one in the list. It's a journal metric for measuring the journal impact in Scopus. So the calculation of a CITE score is based on the number of citations received by a journal in the latest 4 years, including the calculation years, divided by the number of documents published in the journal in those 4 years. So this is the probably you are more familiar with impact factor. The CITE score is the impact factor of Scopus. But instead of 2 years, CITE score use 4 years instead. But it's the same calculation, citation received per document published in a journal in a specific period of time. So CITE score is a metric without field normalization. This means that you should not compare CITE score between different subject fields, because different subject fields have different patterns of citation and publication. Some specific areas publish more because the flow of this area is quick than others. So you cannot use CITE score to compare between areas. So CITE score percentile is the rank of this journal in a relevant subject category. So you can see what is the rank or the score of a specific journal in a area. For example, if the area has 200 journal, which number has this journal in this number of journals. So journal impact factor, probably you are familiar with journal impact factor. It's a journal metric, again, which calculates the number of citations in a particular year, article published 2 years before. So citation practices vary between disciplines. So journal impact factor should not use to compare journal across different subject areas, the same that CITE score, because it's not standardized metrics, it's not normalized metric. So you cannot use that to compare, to decide, for example, this journal has a higher impact factor in medicine than a journal in social science, because they belong to different areas, so you cannot use to compare between areas. So something important, not all journals have an impact factor. They must be indexed in journal citation reports. So if, for example, you find a journal without impact factor, is because this journal doesn't belong to Web of Science or Scopus. Another journal metric is 5-year impact factor. It's similar to impact factor, but with a period of time of 5 years. The calculation of this impact factor, 5 years impact factor, includes a longer time span, which allows more citation activities. It might be appropriate for subject disciplines such as art and humanity or social science, which take longer time to receive citation. For example, if you are publishing in medicine, you receive a quick citation than if you are publishing in arts and humanity. That doesn't mean anything wrong. It's just because of the patterns of the discipline. So other journal metrics such as article influence or eigenfactors, these metrics are considered the importance or the influence of the citations in a particular area. So are coming the citation that coming from a higher cited journal have more influence, have more importance than the citation received from the lesser cited journals. So SNP and SJR are based on the contextual citation impact. For example, SNP is measure the contextual citation impact and enable differences comparison in the different subject areas. You can find SNP in Scopus. SJR is based on the concept of transfer the prestige between journals via their citation links. SJR is based on the similar analysis that Google PageRank. So, the citation that is received by a very high journal with a higher impact factor have more influence. It's more important this citation that is the citation come from citation come from Nature as more important that is the citation come from a journal that is in the lowest part of the list, the impact factors. They measure the citation. The impact quartile is determined by comparing a journal to others in different subject categories based on the impact factor or site score. For example, if a journal falls in Q1, it means that the journal performs better than at least 75% of the journal in that category. So the journals in the category in Q1 are have the highest impact factor in that journal, in that area. So this is just an approach to that. If you would like more with that, please. I know that this is a bit complex, but I think I consider important to explain a bit the journal metrics in order that you can familiarize with them, because both you all are researchers and future researchers, so you need to get used to these metrics. So, well, I'm going to show you how use journal citation reports. I don't know if you are familiar at the moment with journal citation report. I would like to read your answer in the chat box. Anyone have any experience with journal citation reports? If not, doesn't matter, because I am going to explain you how you use the tool. So, okay, the way to access, you can see my screen. Yeah, I think so. So this is the main page of journal citation reports. The way to access this is through the library webpage. I have the tool open at the moment because I checked before, but the way to access is type journal citation reports in the main page of the library. So you can click here, and you need to sign through your institutional account, because this is a tool with a license. So you need to authenticate as a member of the university. So again, journal citation report take the data from Web of Science. So you can analyze the journals that belong to this database. So if a journal doesn't belong to Web of Science or belong just to other database, you can analyze with journal citation reports. So this is the main web page. In this web page, you can enter a journal name if you are interested to analyze a specific journal name. But if you would like to analyze your area, so because you are a researcher from economics or computer science, you click browse by category because you would like to analyze all the journal belong to your category. So the way that journal citation reports classify the journal are in two editions. The science, the pure science, where is the computer, chemistry, or physical science, and the social science. So they classified in two editions, in that part, in the left part. So for this demo, I'm going to use both editions, the journal both edition. But a journal can depend of the scope of the journal, can be classified in different areas and also be classified in different editions, depending of the scope. So the way that this Web of Science and Clarivate responsible to analyze and classify the journal in the different areas and edition. So, okay, this is the categories. So if you can see, there are a number of 235 categories. If you click here, you can order by number of journals. So economics is the category that has the highest number of journals, followed by mathematics, material science, biochemistry, neuroscience. Well, for this first approach, we are going to analyze the journals of economics. If you click the number, this is a hyperlink. So these journals belong to economics. The first one, they are ordered by journal impact factor, by the highest to the lowest. So quarterly journal of economics is the journal that has the highest impact factor in the category of economics. So in the left part, you can customize your search. For example, if you would like to click just to know open access journals, or by quartile of impact. For example, if you are interested to publish in a journal belong to economy, open access, and the first or second quartile of impact. So you click here too and submit. So a number of 10 journals belong to economics are open access and in the first and second quartile of impact. So you can customize indicators if you would like to know, if you would like to add in this search other indicators, for example, immediacy index or the 5-year impact factor that I explained before. So, but as by default, they just show total citation and journal impact factor and eigenfactor. The eigenfactor, as I explained before, is a normalized metric. So, for example, if you can see a journal of competitiveness has the highest impact factor, but it's not the journal that receives the highest number of citations. The highest number of citations is economy, research, and probably is a Russian journal. But in order to evaluate a journal, you need to consider different metrics. Journal impact factor is one of the main ones. Is a metric, exists, but others. So in order that you can make a decision, you can use others. For example, this journal is open access. This journal are receiving citation. This journal belong to, because if the journal belong to different databases, more visibility for you and more chance to receive citations, because so yes. Okay, if you can customize your, if you are interested just in a specific Springer, in a specific publisher. And also, well, no publisher, no Springer in that sample, but connected with, as my colleague Justin explained before, for example, if you are searching the compliance well contrast and you see a journal that complies with well contrast, after that you can search this journal here in journal citation report in order to see what impact factor has the journal, on which quartile of impact you can compare in order to make a decision. If you have a journal that complies with well contrast, you can use these tools to just to add more metrics to make decisions. So I think for the first approach, I think we can stop here the journal citation report. As said before, if you need more support, please get in touch with us after this webinar. So now the next slide, because I know our slide, the next slide is focused on Scopus. I'm not to stop sharing my screen, so I am going to jump directly to the search in Scopus. So yes, this is the main page of Scopus. It's the same that before. You use the main library homepage. So if you type here Scopus, search, and go to Scopus. So if you are searching in your home, you need to authenticate as you belong to the University of Leeds. This is not for free, unfortunately. It costs a lot of money to the license annually. So this is the main web page of Scopus, but as a database. But we are not going to search anything in the web page now. So in the top part, you can see sources. So if you click on sources, so this is the web page where you can find suitable places to publish using Scopus, where the metrics, the journal metrics live. So you can here you can search by subject area. if you are interested in a subject areas, as I explained before, for example, engineering, computer science, or by a specific title or a publisher, or if you know the ISSN, that is so quick. If you know the number of the identifier of the journal. So okay, subject areas. So you can see here the 27, as I say before, the 27 subject areas classified into subject categories. So agricultural is a subject area, arts and humanities another subject area, biochemistry, business, chemical. So they have belong to this, have different areas. Belong to this is there are the journal, the sources. So imagine that you are a researcher from chemistry. Okay, pues click on chemistry, the main one, the broad one. Say apply, because you would like to know how many sources belong to the area of chemistry. Okay, a number of 1,200 approximately sources belong to the area of chemistry. You can find not just journals. In this result, you can find book series, conference proceedings, or trade publication. But probably the majority of us we prefer to publish in a journal. But if you on journal, you say apply. So the database will show you the journal belong to chemistry. It's a reduced number, and here you can customize your search. Example, I am interested just in example only open access journals, and open access journal, but in the first quartile of impact, or the second too. So apply, and 68 result. So 68 results belong to chemistry. They are open access. They belong to the first, second quartile of impact. So it's the best of the best in this area at the moment, in this big area and open access. So they are ordered by site score, the impact factor of Scopus, by the highest to the lowest. So this is the journal has the highest site score. So the number in the percentile is 27. So this journal has 27 score in the ranking in this area in mechanical engineering. So, for example, this journal is the first in pharmacy, because pharmacy, medical, mechanical engineering, all these journals, because the journal can classify into different, depending of the scope, can classify in different areas. So you can find here, for example, library and information science, probably because journal of informatics, depending of its scope, belong also to chemistry and social science. Because of the, if you are interested to know more about journal, you can click on top of the journal, and you can read the scope of the journal, the subject area classify again, okay, subject area social science, in computer science, and chemistry, and depends of the, so the impact factor and the site score don't change in the area. Probably change the quartile. So probably journal of informatics belong to the first quartile of impact in chemistry, but probably in social science, in the third quartile of impact. Depends on how other journals have the. So in order to make decision, if you are a researcher from chemistry, you probably need to focus on the quartile in chemistry. But if you are a researcher in social science, you need to focus in the quartile of this journal in social science. So I know that it's a lot of information to take into account, but it's just an approach. The best way to get knowledge and of these tools is playing with them. So it's playing and explore them. I don't know, Scopus. So this is Scopus. For example, if you are interested to download a sample of journal to explore later, you can download here the source title and metrics. And there is another feature is compare sources that you can use. If you are, for example, a list of journals in your Excel, in your spreadsheet, you can use this journal to compare themselves in order to make decision. How many citations, what is the impact factor, what is the cite score in this part of the tool. And I'm not going to more detail because I think it's a lot of information for the first approach to that. So, well, Scimago journal country rank is the tool, is online, is open access. So you can, but they use a journal from Scopus. So the same journals in Scopus is in Scimago. But Scimago, instead of use cite score, that is the metric, the star metric in Scopus, they use their own metric. It's called SJR. So SJR is depend of the citation count and the other. So they use the journal of Scopus by the same areas in Scopus: agricultural, chemistry, industry, and by subject categories. So if you know biochemistry, and you can select, for example, clinical biochemistry, and you can decide which edition of the cite score, because I think I didn't mention that, but the impact factor, cite score, all the journal metrics change every year. So they are different. They are different every year, depending of the citation that the journal receive. So for that, they classify in different years. For example, the last one is 2019. So this is the site, the SJR in 2019. So Cell Chemical Biology is the journal that has the highest cite score in 2019. If you just to show you, if you click 2018, you can see that Cell Chemical Biological is not the first. So molecular aspect. So in 2018 was not the journal that with the highest cite score, but in 2019, it's just to show you that the impact factor cite score change every year. Depends of the citation, depends of the impact of the documents published in this journal. So it's yes, I know it's a bit complex, but it's just to show you that we have the license of the tools available at the university, open to all the community. not just for the library, not just for the senior researchers, just all are open available. So I think we can come back to my screen again. So, but if you would like more support with journal metrics or with the databases, please get in touch with us. We are very happy to support you, because we know that it's a lot of information for one session. But in this table, I summarized the steps that I follow to search journals. So you can, I made this table so you can follow the steps, and you can search in Journal Citation Report, in Scopus Source or SGR by journals. So I give the turn to my colleague, Justin.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Okay, so we're going to jump to a new topic now. So have any of you considered turning your thesis into a monograph? So we're just having a quick look at monographs. Oh, wow, Elizabeth's already, have you considered it, or have you done it, Elizabeth? Or are you in the process of doing it? I know you probably haven't done it yet, because obviously you might still be doing your PhD, but sometimes we have early career researchers on the PhD events as well. So I just thought I'd ask. So we'll just give a couple of minutes for other people to respond as well. All right, okay, great. So you did an MAR last year, and I wanted to put it into a monograph, but I haven't started yet. Okay, Elizabeth, that's great. Have you are you at the stage where you kind of know, have you been in contact with publishers about it, Elizabeth, yet? Or is it all sort of, okay. So monographs, open access monographs are becoming more and more sort of common. There's an increasing number of open access books and monographs published by university presses, such as our very own White Rose University Press, and other society and commercial publishers. A recent Universities UK report on open access monographs suggests that making scholarly books open access has no impact on the sales of print versions either. So that's really reassuring. There's an open access books network that I'll show you. So for those like Elizabeth who were quite keen about monographs, I will just share that with you now, because you can find some really useful discussions and events on there. I'll just share that with you now. Okay, so this is the Open Access Books Network. It's a forum for everything to do with open access books, really. It's an initiative run by members of Open, Opera's Scholar-led and Spark Europe. It's got a lot of interesting discussions about open access book publishing, and all from the perspectives of researchers, publishers, librarians, infrastructure providers, basically anybody who's interested in open access books. So here's quite a good place to go if you want to find some discussions and events and help and support. You can come here. So finding funding for publishing open access books and monographs. Quite a lot of research funders and research organisations provide funds to cover the costs for book publication charges. I'll just show you a really good resource where you can find funding. Just bear with me a moment. So this is the Radical Open Access Collective, and this is a community of academic-led presses, so it's not for profit. It's a really good resource. There's a lot of funding opportunities listed here for open access books. So if you're looking for funding to publish a book or a monograph open access, this is quite a good resource to come to because it gives links to a lot of different regional and national funders, institutional funders as well, that you can have a look at to see if anything's appropriate where you can perhaps get funding. I'm just going to jump straight into the directory of open access books. So this is a sister site of the directory of open access journals, which indexes open access journals. This indexes open access books from all over the world. So if you are like Elizabeth, thinking about publishing your thesis as a monograph, for example, you can come here to find appropriate publishers. So you can browse by your subject. So say I was working in health sciences, I can go to that subject tree and say my specialism was dentistry. I can have a look at the type of books being published in dentistry, and I can see the publishers who are publishing in that area. So I might want to approach those publishers with my work. So it's a good way of finding appropriate publishers for your research. Right, I'm just going to hand back over to Barbara, who's just to end the session. Oh, sorry, this is a question from Pauline. Hang on, sorry, I'll just try and address that first. So the last section, the last website I went to for finding publishers by topic, Pauline, was the directory of open access books. So if you go into Google and type directory of open access books, you can get that up. Okay, I can send you a link actually. So I'll hand over to Barbara and I'll send you a link in a minute. Okay.
Justin, sorry, you don't want to mention anything about the predatory publisher?
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do this bit. Sorry, I thought you were doing this. Sorry, my apologies. Predatory publishers. These are publishers who are pretending to be peer-reviewed journals. So I'm sure you've come across this in your own work, where suddenly you get an email saying, "Oh, please publish with us." A lot of sort of these places will mass email people to try and get people to submit their work to them. They often make false claims about the peer review processes and quality control as well. So a lot of the times it's not actually getting put through the correct processes of quality control. It's not getting peer reviewed. So these are called predatory publishers. There are ways to screen for predatory publishers. You can use the Think, Check, Submit checklists. So Think, Check, Submit is a really good source for journals and books to help screen for you're hoping that your journal's credible, and it's always good to check it even if you think it's a credible journal. So I'm just going to show you these checklists. I'll just need to search for them. I won't be a second. Okay, so this is Think, Check, Submit. For journals, you can go to the journals section, and it just goes through the process of, are you submitting your research to a trusted journal? Is it the right journal for your work? So there's a checklist here just to check that the journal is actually a trusted, credible journal. Do you or your colleagues know the journal? have you read any articles in the journal before? I won't go through all of these, but there's lots of really good questions just to make you think about the journal a bit more, about its credibility, and you know, the, is it clear about the peer review? Are the articles indexed in other services such as Scopus, perhaps Web of Science? Is the journal well known? Is it coming up in the major databases? Is it listed in the editorial board? Are there members? Are there researchers that you can search on? Are they actual legitimate people? There's also standard industry sort of gold standard places that they belong to, like the Committee of Publication Ethics, etc. And could also check if the journal is listed in the Directory of Open Access Journals as well. So there's lots of pointers there just to help you screen journals. There's one for books as well. So if you are wanting to publish a monograph or a book and you've set upon a publisher, then it's really good to go through the checklist for books as well, just to check that the publisher is actually a trusted publisher. Okay, so I'll just show you the Directory of Open Access Journals as well. So this is a massive directory of open access journals from open access journals all over the world. And the Directory of Open Access Journals really strives to screen the quality of open access journals so that predatory open access journals don't make it on here by mistake. So you can check has the Directory of Open Access seal, so that it's a legitimate journal. You can look for journals by subject. This is just to show you the resource as well. I think I mentioned it. If you were looking for free open access journals to publish in, you can also search for that here too. So that's just to show you that resource.
Sorry, Pauline asked about the last website that finding published by topic. You refer the SJR. This one.
Sorry, Barbara, I didn't quite catch that. Sorry.
No, they asked what is the last website that you went in for finding. Okay, so reply.
I think I answered that. It was I think that was a question from before, the Directory of Open Access.
De DOA.
I think I answered that. We have further support available at the library. So we do other training on raising research visibility, on research data management, on EndNote, and open access. So do check out the other webinars as well. If you do have any questions about today or any other sort of things that you're struggling with that we can support you with, please do email us. Our contact details are there. I'll be really grateful for your feedback from today's session. This will also be emailed to you as well, so don't worry about trying to do that now. So the link will be emailed to you, but yeah, we'd be really grateful for your feedback. I've just built in a bit of time with this session just for any questions. So if you do have any questions about anything from today's session, anything that's not clear, then there is quite a lot of time now where we can answer questions. So please do feel free to say in the chat if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you ever so much for attending. It's been lovely to see everybody virtually and have a chat as well. So thank you all for your comments. It's been interesting hear your views about publishing